Welcome to the Veterinary Rehabilitation Podcast, where we aim to help fellow veterinary rehab therapists increase their knowledge and elevate their practice. I'm Megan Kelly.
And I'm Lloyd. Together, we bring you the latest insights, research, and information in the field of veterinary rehabilitation.
This podcast is brought to you by Onlinepethealth, a leading continuing education membership for veterinary rehabilitation therapists. With Onlinepethealth, you will have access to a wide range of online resources to help you stay up to date with the latest techniques, advances, and trends in the industry.
Our podcast features in-depth conversations with leading experts in veterinary rehabilitation. They share their own experiences and knowledge to help you improve your practice. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out in the field, our goal is to provide you with the tools and the insights you need to succeed.
So join us as we explore the exciting world of veterinary rehabilitation and help you take your practice to the next level. Hey vet rehabbers, in this episode I sit down with our very own Lloyd to talk about the journey of writing and publishing her first book, Canine Muscle Anatomy Simplified. shares what inspired her to start doing illustrations, the challenges she faced along the way, and the lessons she learned throughout the process. We dive into why she chose to self-publish rather than work with a traditional publishing house, why she decided to create an eBook instead of a printed book, and how she turned years of knowledge and experience into a resource that can help others. So if you've ever thought about writing a book or sharing your expertise or creating something that leaves a lasting impact, this conversation is for you. Anne offers practical advice, honest reflections, and plenty of encouragement for anyone considering to take the leap into publishing their own book. After all, I truly believe everyone has a book inside them. So if you'd like to learn more about Anne's book, you can go to onlinepethealth.com/anatomy book, and the book's called Canine Muscle Anatomy Simplified. A quick word from our sponsors. Support, prevent, and rehabilitate. That's the Paw Prosper way. We've built a portfolio of industry-leading brands like Walking Pets, Help 'em Up, Respond Animal Therapeutics, Fit Paws, and Blue Nine to give your patients the gold standard in care. And we have some big news. Paw Prosper is officially the new home of the Canine Rehabilitation Institute and Online Pet Health. We're bringing the best products and the best online education together under one roof to help you and your patients thrive. So as a special hello to the Online Pet Health community, we're offering a one-time gift with your next order when you sign up today. You can head over to pawprosper.com/OPH and join the movement in pet rehabilitation. All right, over to my chat with Anne. Hey Anne, I'm so excited to chat to you about this topic because I've seen the whole journey, like from the very beginning. So welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Meg. Yeah, I feel like our conversation on this is a little bit overdue, but also potentially the timing is perfect because we have a bit of hindsight, which is good.
So let's start at the very beginning. So just for everyone, what made you decide to create that first Canine Muscle Anatomy Simplified ebook?
Okay, so I think I've wanted to write a book for a long time, but the question was always on what. And I am more of an equine person, so I figured it would be within the equine space, because that is usually where my interest lies. But I'm redoing my veterinary physiotherapy degree at the moment, and first year anatomy, that was 2 years ago. That was just as intense and hectic doing it the second time around as it was the first time around. It really is a trial by fire. It's horrible. It's so fast. Even with the familiarity of the language and really already knowing my anatomy pretty well, I felt the pressure. So I felt really sorry for the first year students doing it for the first time. And all those feelings came back to me of this gap that we have in that canine anatomy space, where our primary canine anatomy textbooks are Miller's Anatomy, and it is a huge, huge textbook, very text heavy, not a lot of illustrations. Whereas by comparison, on the equine side, for someone learning anatomy for the first time, and for someone in clinical practice referencing anatomy, we have the Atlas, the ABC of the Horse by Paulie Gronberg, which is a very, very good reference. It has every single muscle illustrated individually. It has a section for the bones, for the joints, for the ligaments. It's really clear because it simply outlines, it shows you the picture of the muscle and then it outlines origin, insertion, innervation, function. And having it in such a simple, straightforward format makes it much, much easier to learn. And so really feeling that need in first year for the canine side and being shocked that no one's done it before, I started creating illustrations of the individual muscles for myself. When I started creating them, the idea was definitely not to put them into a book, but to be able to make flashcards for myself or to have, to have those as learning material for myself. So my first version was actually flashcards with all the individual muscles with the origin, insertion, innervation, and function outlined in a simplified format. And that's kind of where it started. That's why I started doing it and started putting the material together and started illustrating them. Hmm.
So, won't you just explain for those that don't know, like why are you redoing your veterinary
Oh,
physiotherapy?
yes, why would I do something so
Yes,
crazy? That's a
why?
great
Yes.
question, Meg. What is wrong with me? So that goes kind of into our history here in South Africa, but when I did my degree in the first place, it was not yet a degree because our profession of veterinary physiotherapy was not yet promulgated. And so the promulgation of a profession and then the educational pathway into that profession, they have to happen simultaneously, hand in hand, because they're 100% dependent on one another. You can't have a profession without a pathway into it, and you can't have an educational pathway without a profession that you're leading people into. So they have to happen together. And while they're coming into creation, in those first few years, neither one is registered or recognized. So I was in the second year of students that did this, that went through this program, and it was already a 4 year full-time, very intensive course, although it has evolved a little bit since then, as it should. That is what it should have done, so that's good. Um, so essentially, I think in 2018, the profession was promulgated, and once the profession was promulgated, the actual course or university received its full registration. But what that meant is that they couldn't extend our degrees to us who had already qualified. The first people who actually received their degrees started their course the year after it was registered. So even the people who were already studying did not have their degree by the end of the course. So quite a delayed process and really not great. It feels quite difficult to navigate, but it is the way that the education and the legal system is set up. That is the situation. So what they have made allowance for those of us who qualified prior to it being registered, is that we can study with recognition of prior learning. So we only need to do 50% of the credits of the course. It's luckily not the full-time 4 years. We just need to do 50% of the credits, which essentially comes down to all the theory-based subjects. So I'm redoing all the theory-based subjects, anatomy, exercise physiology, pathology in small animals and equine, surgery, imaging, farriery, nutrition, all the fun things. I get to redo all of those. And honestly, it's been really awesome because I always feel really strongly about the foundations of anything that you do, and to have the opportunity to relay my foundations, to kind of check in on those cornerstones has been really, really good. So yeah, I will be finishing at the end of this year, hopefully, if I continue to pass all my subjects.
So, to know what you're doing is actually sort of one of my continuing nightmares that I have. So, to know, like some people have like a nightmare that they have on a regular basis. So,
Yeah,
I have this
yeah.
nightmare, and I remember people asking me in my nightmare, in my dream, why are you doing this? And that was me redoing veterinary. So I
Yeah.
qualified as a vet, qualified everything. I passed everything, and I
Mhm.
didn't need to do it again. But I decided, or I just went and I decided I'm going to go do it again to be thorough in my nightmare. And then
Yeah.
getting to like second and third year and thinking, what am I doing? And then them saying, no, now you like reset to where you are, even though you qualified, you can't use it, you have to finish. And then everyone asked me,
Oh my
why did you do
goodness.
that? This is a recurring nightmare of mine, so you living it.
That's really bad, Meg.
It
That's
is
bad.
really
I
bad.
mean, that sounds like a little bit of like imposter syndrome coming in there. Hey,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't really do it the first time. I was just
No,
pretending.
exactly. I don't know how I got by. I must maybe do it properly this time.
I must do it properly this time. Yeah, it is actually it's very intense to redo it. So it's hard to advise others who are wanting to redo it to do it. Your reasons have to be right. Like if you're just doing it to tick the box, honestly don't. Like you don't need to go through the fire. It's horrendous. But if there's a bigger, like for example, for me, I feel like I have an influence on an international stage. And so my registration here in South Africa without an actual qualification doesn't mean anything on an international stage. I want to do my master's, which means I have to have my BSc. Like I can't skip a step. I have to have the first box ticked to be able to move on to the next one. And those things are important to me. And so from that perspective, it's been like, yes, it's worth going through the fire because hopefully it will give me, new or different opportunities into the future. I can contribute in other ways potentially. It makes sense from that perspective. But if you are working in South Africa, you're going to continue working in South Africa, you're registered already with Vet Council, you know, really think about doing Ladies, if you're listening and you're wondering if you should do the RPL, it's really hard. Call someone who's been through it, talk to them, and they make your decision. It's tough.
I just want to say,
Yeah.
now you take online pet health, vet rehab has never stopped learning to another level. Redoing your degree. So we commend
Yes.
you. Online pet health
And then
commends
also
you representing.
representing. Yes, and then also writing and publishing a book twice during the same
Yeah.
time period. That makes a lot of sense, right?
So let's
It's a
get
good
back
thing
to
to
that.
do.
Let's get back to the book. So like when you first had the idea, and
Mm.
for me, like you say, we've got hindsight because obviously you and I had so many conversations about like, should I do this? And but for you, were you clear like what the final product would look like? Or do you think it evolved a lot over time?
I think both of those things are true, right? I think there was a lot of evolution that happened, but I also had an idea of what I wanted. So what I wanted was something similar to the ABC of the horse, which has a beautiful layout already. Like I love the way it's set out. I love its layout. I love its clarity. I loved all those things. And so in my mind, those were things that I wanted for the for the canine version as well. There are things about it I don't love. Like I don't love the labeling system, for example, of most textbooks. I find it confusing to follow lines all over the place or to have a lettering or a numbering system that links back to a list on the side or at the bottom of the page. My brain doesn't like that. And so I wanted a better way to label so that it doesn't feel so heavy. You're already overwhelmed studying. You don't need additional weight in your mind. So that was one thing. And that took some evolution because it wasn't my first solution, didn't work for everyone. And I needed to come up with some better ways. So that was an evolution. And like I said, it originally started, I actually through about three versions before I was like, okay, this is the book that it's going to be. I had a flashcard layout. That was my first. My second was a dissection guide, right? So if you're going through a dissection, there is a process that you're going through, and you're not necessarily going neck from superficial to deep, front leg superficial to deep. You're going through the whole body, superficial to deep, kind of flowing through the zones as you go. So you have much more of a whole body focus and then going through the layers. That was my second layout or version that I started working on and that I started creating was more of a dissection guide. And then it evolved into the book that it essentially is. The structure hasn't changed, where we go zone by zone from superficial to deep, and we go through all the muscles individually. Yeah, and then in the second edition, we added the full body images and a few additional small muscles that you're not always looking at as a clinician.
Yeah, for the listeners that don't know, Anae's actually released two editions, so she's already on the second edition. So, what did you do to prepare yourself? I mean, just learning wise, obviously you were doing your first year anatomy for the second time. You'd like looked at all the anatomy books, because I recall you actually doing some dissections and going to some dissections. Were those like crucial for you to visualize all the muscles and then be able to put that down on paper? Because I think for me that's the most amazing thing is
Yeah.
I'm not the kind of person that could draw something like you, all those drawings and anatomy drawings. So you have to have this ability to be able to visualize something, because I mean some of the drawings that you've even got are like cross-sectional, which just
Yeah.
blows my mind how that goes from your head and into onto paper. So yeah, just maybe run through like where what you did in order to get to that place, and were the dissections like an important part of it?
Yeah, dissections I think are a very important part of it. I don't know how much they directly fed into the book itself. So I'll answer that question in two parts. So how much did the dissections feed into the book itself? I think not as much as they could have or I might have wanted to. For me to really have done that, like to go directly from the dog itself and then bring that information into the book, which I think is valuable and is important, I would have had to do many different breeds, many different dogs, which wasn't at my disposal. And I would have had to spend a lot more time in the dissections than I had access to. So I did multiple dissections. I went to two dissections at Equine Librium during my first year. I went and attended some dissections, which was fantastic. But the purpose there is to be reviewing your anatomy, and you're in a group of students, of first year students. And so the dynamic is studying your anatomy, right? I wasn't specifically looking for discrepancies between the textbook descriptions that we have. I was simply identifying, finding, and moving through the dissection in a very short span of time during those. And then I had the opportunity to host a dissection at home as well during that year, which was, again, for the purpose of my studies, hugely, hugely valuable, but feeding directly into the book, less so. So for the book, I used other textbooks. I used many other textbooks. I looked at the descriptions. We have very few resources that actually show a specific muscle from origin to insertion. But this textbook was one of my biggest resources, and it is dissection based. So it goes through, this is where the cross sections come from to a large degree, right? Being able to study the cross sections in this textbook and then reproduce them in a different format or in a different way. This book was a big resource for me, together with Miller's Anatomy, to create those illustrations, because this one, so for those who are listening, it's the Color Atlas of Veterinary Anatomy, The Dog and the Cat, by Stanley Dunn, Peter Goody, Susan Evans, and Neil Strickland. This helped me to visualize the relationship between the muscles, and then Miller's Anatomy is the primary place where you're getting the origin, insertion, and functional information for each one of those. There are a lot of discrepancies. There are a lot of areas where um, in the cross-sectional areas between this book and other books, muscles are misidentified, mislabeled. I think that happens really, really easily, and sometimes missed out. So it looks like it's simply part of another area, and so it hasn't been separated or identified in the diagrams. The same with Miller's. There are a lot of cross-sectional areas specifically where if you go through all the muscles that should be there, there are muscles missing. So that was quite a process to kind of figure out what was missing and what needs to be added in, and then where would that go if I added back in. So that was really fun and interesting. I love the cross-sectional areas. They're actually by far my favorites. I love them a lot. But I used to hate them. As a student, cross-sectional areas made no sense to me because it's too abstract. You want to be able to see the muscles and how they relate to each other as a whole and not in cross-section. Now I love them. Does that answer your question, Meg? Oh, the second part of how I want to answer the question is no one resource, including Canine Muscle Anatomy Simplified, should ever be your only resource when you're studying anatomy. I don't think, and my goal is not to replace dissections. I don't think you can. If you want to study anatomy, right, you have to have that basic knowledge, origin, insertion, innervation, function, and unfortunately, it is very parroted. You have to just be able to memorize it and visualize it. The visualization helps. And then you need to apply that in dissections, in palpation of the living dog. One cannot replace the other. So I think that's really important is don't just use one resource. Always attend, if you can, as many dissections as you can. They're hard. I know they're hard, but they're super important if anatomy matters to you.
Yeah, and I think your ebook is a great quick reference book, like to pull out that big textbook and go through all those cross-sectionals. I mean,
Very
that's
hard.
why you created it. You created it to be a quick reference. So,
Hmm.
do you know offhand how many images drawings you have in the second edition?
Hmm. So the second edition comes with a figure list at the end, and I did count that up, and I think it was 147. It was 140 something illustrations. Yes.
Wow.
And I say that, and even, there are some figures that I have two images in. So looking at the same thing from a different angle, and I've labeled them as the same figure. So there is probably more than that, because I don't think I counted those individual ones. Yeah.
Did you ever doubt the project or yourself when you were doing it? So I mean, when you were halfway through or quarter of the way through, did you think what am I doing? Am I actually ready to do this? Am I qualified enough to do this? Talk us through that.
Yes, so many times, all the time. All the time.
And still.
Um, and still I'm like, what am I doing? There are proper moments where I feel like we should just pull it off the market, take it away because it's not good enough and it needs to be better. So I honestly have many moments like that. Even still on a semi-regular basis, and I have to talk myself down off the ledge. It's worse before we publish. It's at its worst before we publish. So I would say the month before we're supposed to release it, all of a sudden I am just seeing endless mistakes, endless additions that I want to make, endless changes I want to make, doubting the quality of the illustrations, wanting to redo the illustrations. I'm telling you, I want to redo all the pictures every single time. I'm like, oh no, I didn't redo these ones. So yes, I doubt myself all the time. I don't necessarily think you need to have, it's an interesting space, anatomy. I don't think you need to have a list of credentials behind you to be an anatomist. I don't know. I do think you need to be a good student and you need to care about accuracy. And I think for me, there's a big component of I really want to make this information accessible because it feels inaccessible. It feels impossible when you're in the thick of trying to study anatomy. I'm not a good parrot. I'm a terrible parrot learner. I need to have understanding. And so many of us in the industry are like that. And if you rely on understanding concepts and principles to study anatomy, then you're in trouble because it is memorizing. And so having that component of being able to visualize the muscle and see it in front of you makes the memorization easier. It takes pressure off of that. So yeah, I doubt myself all the time, Meg. Mm.
So when you obviously you finished with the book, there were some choices. You could either go to like a traditional publisher or you could self-publish. Like you ended up going the self-publishing route. What led you to that decision?
Um, I think a few things, and we actually really did that together,
Mm.
right? So it wasn't only my choice alone. I really did lean on you more for that decision and for the small the not small, but the what felt to me like the smaller decisions around publishing and protection, etc. I didn't want to go deeply into that. I wanted to be able to rely on a partner. So that's one thing is that I wanted to be in it with someone that I knew and trusted, which was Meg. I wanted to be able to lean on our community of online pet health. That was a big thing for me. So, yes, if we had gone with a publisher like, I don't know, Elsevier or Wiley or etc., that would have added a lot of credibility and weight, which I think would have been great. But at the same time, it felt very unfamiliar and scary to me, that process. How much control would I have? How much say would I have? Those things mattered to me ultimately, and maybe I was overthinking that. Another big part of it was actually the profit margin, to be honest. As an author, I wanted to be able to earn money from this resource for myself and for my family. And when you publish through a publisher, your profit margin as the author decreases a lot, like a lot. And so it was a question of if we go to print through a publisher, I would be looking at earning from the research that I did somewhere around 10% or less on every book that was sold. And to me, that felt little, and I wanted more than that. So that was a big part of the choice. Another part of the choice to self-publish was that I didn't want to view the first version as complete. There's no way I would have been able to convince my brain to let it go into the world if I wouldn't have been able to make changes to it and update it at a future date that wouldn't be too far in the future. So again, I felt like the process of going through a publisher would have meant a lot of time delay, a lot of time added because you're going through a lot of additional processes that, again, you have very little control over. And then I don't know if I would have been brave enough to do it again to release a second edition. Um, that was a big thing. Yeah.
And I think also we got feedback from other people in the profession who had
Yeah.
published, and just chatting to them about all the effort and time they put in and financially what they're getting out of it wasn't really that much worth it anymore to do having done it. So I think that was a big decision maker to do the self-publishing. Um, yeah.
And it does, I mean, it does feel harsh to say, well, like the money was a big part of the decision-making process, but it really is, if you guys speak to authors, um, I, it's not a fantastic industry to be in. It's not a great space to go into, to be an author and to try and make a living off of writing, creating books. And so that was the research that was available to me was really around the space of authorship, not necessarily academic textbooks. That information is not as easily available, but I can't imagine it would be very different. And it was a very big factor. It's very demotivating to go through all the work and to put something out into the world and to get little to no uh, reward from that, I guess. Yeah.
And also, obviously, having done it digitally now and
Mm.
self-published, it doesn't mean that you can't have it in print going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think
That's part of the
the
plan.
digital component is the digital component is also a big thing that I've had so many questions about. Um, I had people calling me ahead of publishing some of my testers who were like, you cannot put this out into the world as a digital version because people are going to duplicate it and steal it and they're just going to send it on to other people. And so that is a big question. And it's a difficult one. Essentially, I just ultimately weighed up the risk of, how many people are going to share it, how many people are going to duplicate it or copy it or use it in ways that they are not supposed to. And is it worth it at the end of the day when we weigh that up against how accessible it is, how easy it is to distribute, how easy it is to get into as many practices as possible? We are in a digital world. So there are two components to that. We really are in a digital world where it's very nice to have a textbook on your iPad or on Kindle. That is really convenient. And if you're traveling, if you're a traveling mobile veterinary physiotherapist or veterinarian and you want a reference, having giant textbooks in your trunk is really not the answer. Having it on your iPad, that makes sense. That is logical and that's helpful. Same thing as a student. If you're out in the field, you're working on palpating something and you're trying to identify the muscles you're working on. Again, sitting with a giant textbook next to a dog or a horse is not really great, but having your iPad and being able to use a search function, fantastic. Really easy, very easy to find information. So there is that component, and ultimately, I wanted it to be easily accessible and convenient. I did not want to sit with giant boxes in my house that I need to ship and send and package. That is a nightmare. That's a true nightmare in my mind. Like I can't do that. So digital was the best option from that perspective. And yes, maybe people will use it the way that they're not supposed to or duplicate it and maybe someone will steal it. I don't know, but I'm not in control of that. And they could do that with a printed copy as well.
Yeah.
You know, they
Obviously,
could
we
do it
have
when it's printed.
you have protection around that too. So
Yeah,
you have protection around that. But I think also, I mean, I remember us discussing this and we trusted in our community. Our community is generally a very ethical community. They're very
very.
trustworthy. And so we just said the type of people that are vet rehabbers, they're going to do the right thing. So yeah, we trusted everyone and how they were going to handle the ebook. Yeah, tell me about like, in the process of actually writing the book, like I want to know whether your understanding of anatomy changed at all. Like if you think before you wrote the book, when you were just studying, and then after you've written the book, how has things changed for you around anatomy?
Okay, so I think one of the biggest things, and for anyone who's studying anatomy, please listen because this is gold. My lecturer said to me at the beginning of the year, study your bones. Okay, if you've got your bones down, everything else is easy. And that is it. That is it. The bones are boring. You want to ignore them because they're boring. They're not the thing, right? But you cannot actually remember your origins and insertions, which are on the bones, if you didn't study the bones to begin with. And so that was a big thing for me is that yes, this book is Canine Muscle Anatomy Simplified, and I did focus on the muscles. Um, we will have future bone editions and joint editions and ligament editions. But if you really want to make anatomy easy, start with the bones. That was my big thing. Meg. So I have my own bone collection from a dissection that I did. That was amazing. I'm so grateful I did that. It was a beautiful greyhound. It was a young dog that was put to sleep off the track because they couldn't rehome it. So it's a healthy, beautiful greyhound. And I have the whole complete bone set. And that is, yeah, that's very valuable in studying. So get your hands on bones. The more you can actually touch and feel and work with and study original real bones, the better you'll see all the processes, all the muscle connections, all the little rough edges, all the tubercles, all the little holes and depressions that are essentially where your muscles are coming from and going to. And that makes studying a whole lot easier. In terms of like my understanding of anatomy as a whole, that's a tricky question because it's not like a subject like exercise physiology where the deeper you go into the research and the literature, the more you understand. It is a little bit more of a static subject, if I can say that. You know, there's this is the muscle and it has an origin and an insertion, and yes, there are differences between breeds and individuals, but ultimately if you have the foundation, then you have the foundation. What else was really interesting to me what I while I was doing this and studying this is just kind of the more you go into it, the quicker you see little mistakes in labeling or in how someone's speaking. And so it's really interesting because now I don't open a textbook anymore without seeing, oh, wait, that should be this, or that's not right. Let me double check that. That's really interesting. Yeah.
If you had to do the book again, so let's say you could go back, would you do anything differently?
Um, Maybe I would have given myself slightly more time. I don't know.
Deadline's always good.
Deadlines are good. They make things happen.
Exactly.
We did, I mean, how many times did we move each of the deadlines though?
Not a lot. I think once. Each edition we moved once.
Yo, the second edition, I think we moved like three times because our original goal was Summit. And then we said no. I said no. And then
Yeah.
it was January. And then I said no again. And then we moved it to March. So we
Yeah.
moved the second edition three times. Yeah.
So if you had to give advice to somebody, because we have so many amazing vet rehabbers in our community, and like, everyone has all this knowledge. And for me, I love it when I hear a vet rehab is publishing a book. But
Yeah.
a lot of people I think are just holding out, and they're thinking, oh, like who am I to write this book? And yeah, what advice would you give to them?
I think it's so worth doing. I think it really is worth doing. But it isn't easy, and there are a lot of decisions to make along the way. I think the biggest one ultimately is the format that you're going to want to publish in and who you publish through. Self-publishing is becoming more and more of a thing, and so it's becoming more and more accessible, is what I mean, and more realistic. And so don't take that off the table because that might be the best thing for you. Like I say, when you speak to authors, it is one of the most demotivating parts of it is that you publish your book and you put it out into the world, and then it feels like you're climbing a mountain to get it sold. Which if you're doing through a publisher, they are the ones selling it, and so you have less influence on how and where that's done. Maybe you have to go on like book tours or you have to go sit at venues and sell your book. That's hard. That's very time consuming for very little return on that time investment. So things like that, look at that and think about that. I think the actual creation process is not necessarily the hardest part because that's the part that you're already excited about is creating this thing that you have in your mind. So give yourself the space to enjoy that because that is really where the joy is in the creation and the forming of this thing. If you struggle with like perfectionism and it needing to be perfect, this digital format is the way I solved that for myself because I took the pressure off of having to be perfect. We went through multiple quality control tests, if I can say that. So I had a lot of feedback from various people on the format, the layout, the design of the book. Obviously, for this book, that was an important component. Depending on what you're doing, that could be more or less important. And then the content itself. I think if you're writing something, get a good copywriter who's going to help you edit what you wrote. I think that's very important and very valuable. Yeah, it's worth doing. It's worth doing. Do your research. Don't get stuck in it must be this way or it must be this format. It's so satisfying to hold a book in your hands. I agree. But maybe that's not always the best way forward. For sure, for us, this has been really awesome. Yeah.
And also, one of the things about your ebook, which I love, is that you actually allow people to print it
Mm,
out and get it bound. So, I
yeah.
mean, you actually have a copy of it, right? I still need
Yeah.
to get mine printed. I haven't printed mine yet. Um, because I also actually like a book. You know,
Yeah.
I don't have many textbooks which are on Kindle. I've got some which I've doubled up, you know, so that I've got
Mm,
the actual book. And so yeah, so for those of you that are interested in it, you can actually print it and have it as a hard copy. You just get it bound nicely and printed nicely.
we
So one thing I'm
they
quite
have a
excited
name now,
about.
Meg. These are now called bookshelf trophies because we're either listening to things as ebooks or reading them on Kindle, and then we have bookshelf trophies.
Love it.
Yeah.
One thing I'm so excited about is your Instagram channel. So,
Mm,
yeah, we've recently started a channel called Canine Anatomy Pro. So, if you guys want to follow us, you can go and check it out. And Anae is doing loads and loads of videos. And, you know, as you were chatting about the bones, there's a brilliant video that you did recently now about the hip. And you were
mm,
talking about the glutes and where it attaches, and you were showing. And I actually just had this sort of clarity in looking at it, you know, like about all those muscles around the hip and the glutes and you know where they're attached and then you explained you were like showing like yeah they're attached and you were explaining like how that does the movement and just very suddenly I was like right now I can tell you because I mean my anatomy knowledge is dwindled a little bit
mm.
because I haven't been such a good student as you and keeping up to date and doing my course twice. But just off the top of my head right now, I could like tell you like in my mind I could visualize the origin, insertion, and the function of basically the glutes from that one video. So
Yeah.
those videos are really awesome and they're all around the bones. So yeah, for those of you that are interested in anatomy, I would definitely go and follow it. I think you started it like a month ago, and I think you already got like 6,500 followers on there.
Yeah.
So it's growing really, really quickly and really, really, I think a good resource for any vet rehabber. So it's at Canine Anatomy Pro for those of you that are interested.
Thank you. One of the things on the Instagram channel that I'm really looking forward to going into is answering the feedback from the book. Okay, so the biggest gap that people identified in the first edition, which we've semi-plugged in the second edition, is that how do we take it into movement, right? Like the actual function of the muscles is to create and control movement. And so, like, can we create that link? Can we do like an anatomy and motion thing? And that is still very, like, that's a very big project. It's a very big project in anatomy and motion. But in the meantime, until that could be a reality, we are playing with anatomy and motion on the Instagram page. So like my favorite thing is doing remixes with people that focus on movement and exercise, good movement, good quality movement, good quality exercises, and then highlighting the anatomical components of that. So we're doing lots of that. If you're keen to join, let me know because I need more people to contribute to that. And yeah, that's my favorite thing.
Awesome, Renee. It's been so lovely chatting with you about this. And yeah, I just want to say I'm so proud of you. So from to have gone this whole journey with you and just watched you overcome all the obstacles because there've been lots of obstacles. It's been hard, really, really, really hard. But you've got through it. And yeah, I'm looking forward to more learning. And I think definitely the bones. We need, as you said that, we got to learn the bones. I was like, you
Mhm.
actually inspired me. I was thinking, oh, maybe I should start deep diving into some more anatomy and actually, learn a little bit more and just get my knowledge a bit more up to scratch.
Yeah,
So yeah,
sounds fun.
I'm going to deep dive into those bones and try and up level a little bit my anatomy.
That's good. That's good. Maybe we should throw a question out there. Like if you're thinking, I know my bones. I know where the humerus and the femur is and the scapula, etc. Well, if I said to you that a specific muscle attaches on the coracoid process, would you be able to show me where that is? And which muscle is that that's attaching on the coracoid process? So
Yeah,
there
I
we
can't
go.
tell you that.
Can you, can you answer the first question that pops into my mind when we're thinking about this? And then maybe that will tell you whether or not you have a little bit of a gap in your bones
Yeah, I
knowledge.
love it. A bones knowledge gap.
A
And
bones knowledge. Yeah.
yeah, best of luck with everything. And yeah, just so excited and happy to be sharing this journey with you. It's exciting.
Thank you, Meg. It's been really fun.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button so you get notified every time I load a new podcast. I'm here every week talking to vet rehab therapists from all over the world about all things vet rehab. A big thanks to our sponsor, Paw Prosper. Their sponsorship allows us to be able to give this podcast to you for free. So go and check them out at pawprosper.com. And also don't forget to bookmark the next Vet Rehab Summit on Saturday, the 14th of November, 2026. Come and be a part of the world's largest online veterinary rehabilitation conference created specifically for you, the vet rehabber community. Online Pet Health members get VIP complimentary access to the Vet Rehab Summit. For more information about continuing education for vet rehabbers, you can go to onlinepethealth.com.